On Monday, Native American activists threw a chain and a rope around the obelisk in Santa Fe's plaza and pulled it down. The monument went up just after the Civil War to honor fallen Union soldiers, but over the years became more of a general memorial to troops. It at one time described Native communities, by the way, as savages as well. That's the reason why in June, as the country was reconsidering its monuments, Santa Fe removed one of Don Diego de Vargas, and the mayor tried to remove the obelisk in the dark of night. You might remember that. Then Mayor Alan Weber promised a, quote, Truth and Reconciliation Committee to look at what to do regarding the obelisk, but that effort floundered and the mayor stopped talking about it until this week when it was too late. Steve, did Mr. Weber make a mistake as you hear the timeline here?
Yeah. This thing's been going on. I remember 40 years ago when the guy snuck on the plaza. He didn't sneak. He was disguised as a workman, and he chiseled away the word savage on that monument. And
right.
He's always been one of my Santa Fe heroes, actually. They never did find out who it was. No one ever claimed credit or got arrested. I'm sure the statute of limitations is up now if they want to come forward. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he promised in June to have start this commission you mentioned, mm-hmm. and it never happened. I just saw a report in today's paper saying that, we're going to do it now. But, now that the horse is out of the barn, we'll have a commission.
Yeah.
But, and there were other mistakes, too. I think probably there were 6 police on the plaza, and they were ordered to stand down. A couple of people got arrested for scuffling with the police.
Right.
And they didn't look like Native Americans by that. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't judge what ethnicity they are, but they didn't look like natives to me. And
well, the 2 cats that got arrested didn't look native as well. I mean,
that's what I mean.
They have their mugshots in their names. They don't ring particularly native. Tom Lee, would pick up on you with this. The idea that, of all the days, where there might be a problem, I would think Monday would have been on the mayor's calendar and Santa Fe Police Department and everyone else as a watch out for especially with things building up from Saturday. So touch on how you feel this was handled by the mayor at this point.
Yeah, I'm not a Mayor Weber apologist. I think he needs to step up the media game and just provide that leadership that he promised back in June. Obviously, now it appears to be happening. I think that the Santa Fe police and the approach, I know I'll be in the minority with this, but I think that they did the right thing as far as pulling back. It looked like it was going to be a peaceful protest by the time it got out of hand. Obviously, I think at that point, the horse was already out of the barn and they had to just kind of let it play its course because in this day and age, I would imagine that the group of protesters and specifically those who, tore down the obelisk were ready with cell phones and a lot of drama in the event that the police were, called in to start pulling people off. Mm-hmm. I think the story today would have been very different and one, focused more on police violence as opposed to, an obelisk coming down. Today. So I think that the call from the mayor's office and the police was the right call as far as not to engage, let them have a peaceful protest. It got out of hand, but you know what? The only thing that was really damaged was a chunk of cement.
Yeah.
Dee Dee, pick up on that if you would as well. I mean, the symbolism's powerful. It's powerful.
I totally agree with Tom, though. Mm-hmm. I do sympathize with the mayor. I mean, Santa Fe is a sticky wicket when it comes to their view of history, historic preservation, the various groups and special events that have protested. And so I think he valued people over property. And I think that was the right decision. The story would have been different today.
Can I interrupt you there? Do we know that? I mean, do we know that if Santa Fe Police Department just parked 2 cruisers about 25 feet away, do we know it would have been an escalating problem? I can't quite square that in my own mind.
Well, we could talk about hypotheticals. I don't know. Of course, I don't know whether it would have been different or not. But this is one of the first opportunities that Native Americans have had to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day.
Right.
And I think it's really kind of sad that this happened then, because there are a lot of constructive activities that were going on down in Albuquerque. There was a rally for Tohajale water to solve that problem. Down here. It was a Zoom rally. There was a celebration by Zoom at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. This is not going to go away.
Right.
This division is not going to go away. And so the question is, do you want to inflame it with a police presence, or do you somehow want to diffuse it? I think a Truth and Reconciliation Commission is the way to go. The mistake was, you don't promise to do something and then wait 4 months before you do it. You have to, if you can't do it right away, don't promise it.
Steve, let me pick up with you on that too to finish up this segment. As we sit here, we had a city council meeting in Santa Fe last night. We had a number of city councilors ready to go with this Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Where were they these past few months? I didn't get again, I'm not in Santa Fe, so I'm not saying like I have a view of this. But I did not get the sense that the city council members that were in support of this were really sort of pushing to get the mayor to kind of get this going. Any culpability on the council?
Yeah, I haven't been following City Hall that closely, but no, I haven't read anything about any big push to start this thing. I think it's just kind of like, well, let's just not rock the boat now, or I think they probably just forgot about with the pandemic and everything else going on. They're busy, but they shouldn't have swept it under the rug for that long, and it'd be longer if this hadn't happened on Monday.
That's a point. Tom, real quick, how does one do this and includes the public, a Truth and Reconciliation thing? I mean, I watched it years ago in South Africa where this idea first came from. In the early days of the internet, I remember watching it. It was stunning, actually. It was just like so confessional and so difficult. It took like 2 weeks. It was a real long thing. How would you picture you advising the mayor how to get the public involved with this?
Well, the first thing is to listen, because a lot of people have things that they want to say, that they need to say with respect to this on multiple different sides. So, setting up a series or a number of different outlets for groups to share their perspectives. And because I don't even see that the commission or this committee would even have anything to say until they've heard everything that needs to be heard, even though they think they might have heard it. Give the community a chance to speak their piece. And then from there, have the commission go back and say, okay, what is the best way to do it? And then start to convene very public, nothing behind closed doors, very public conversations about an issue that it needs to be addressed in the community spotlight.
I appreciate that point. That's how to get it done. We're out of time for now. This group will be back to look at the Public Regulation Commission reform idea.